Okay, welcome everyone. Members of the public are advised the meeting will be live streamed and recorded, and live stream recording will be made publicly available on YouTube and Council's website. Councillor Grant Brooker is participating virtually in this meeting in accordance with Part 5 of the Governance Rule meeting procedures. Nillumbik Shire Council respectfully acknowledges and recognises the Wurundjeri Wurrung as the traditional owner of the land on which Nillumbik is located. We pay tribute to all First Peoples living in the Nillumbik Shire, give respect to elders past, present and emerging, and extend our respect to all First Peoples. We acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. We have a leave of absence. Councillor Kate McKay has requested a leave of absence for this Planning and Consultation Committee meeting. Do I have a mover to this motion?
Yes, may I please, Mayor?
Thank you, Councillor Cope.
Do I need to read the... May I recommend that the committee, acting under the delegation from the council, grants the leave of absence for Kate McKay. Okay.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Joy. Thank you. Councillor Cope, would you like to speak to the motion? No. Councillor Joy? No. Any other councillors like to speak? I'll now put this motion to a vote. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Moving on to declarations of conflicts of interest. Are there any councillors who wish to disclose a conflict of interest? No. Thank you. And the confirmation of minutes. Do I have a mover and seconder to confirm the minutes, please?
Thanks, Councillor Joyner. I'll move that the committee acting under delegation from Council confirms the minutes of the Planning and Consultation Committee meeting held on Tuesday, 9th September 2025, as per attachment 1.
Thanks, Councillor Perkins. And a seconder?
Second that.
Thank you. I'll now put this motion to a vote. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Now moving on to the officer reports. We have two this evening. First one is the Parks and Open Space Service Standards. We have a speaker for this one, Don Vincent, President of Friends of Nillumbik. Would you like to come to the table and speak for us? Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm speaking on behalf of Friends of Nillumbik. So these service standards are necessary to establish maintenance plans and budgets. However, something is completely absent from this one: service standards for environment and biodiversity. According to the agenda, the assets covered include vegetation on roadside reserves and management of weed control, but there's very little about these in the document itself, except a reactive response. There are higher level targets in the biodiversity and urban tree canopy strategies, but these are not reflected in service standards or indeed in budgets. As a consequence, it's no wonder that the annual biodiversity performance report for last year reveals declining condition of 45% of council reserves. So how is this a problem? Without service standards, staff are completely without guidance in managing roadsides and nature strips, and to a significant extent reserves, to meet Council's own environmental and biodiversity targets. They are reliant on working within limited and arbitrary budgets or verbal instructions from management. This has led, in my direct experience, to total inconsistency across council groups in responding to service requests via snap, send, solve or complaints. On one hand, I've been required to get a permit or remove native vegetation from the roadside when it was compliant with Council's planning guidelines. On the other hand, requests to attend to severe infestations of invasive plants or unapproved infrastructure on roadsides are ignored marked as solved when they haven't and won't be attended to, or I'm told there is no budget. It's clear that Council, as I've noted previously, is completely unable to meet its own obligations under the Catchment and Land Protection Act, its requirements under Local Law Number 1, or its commitments under the Biodiversity Strategy or the Roadside Management Plan. Environmental improvement programs, policies and guides in place over a decade ago have lapsed. Requests for increased budgets have been ignored. We understand that the total annual budget for invasive weed control on some 1,200 kilometres of roadside reserves across the whole Shire is about $124,000. To put this miserable amount in perspective, tonight Council is being asked to spend $500,000, including a $300,000 grant from State Government, for a dog park upgrade in Hurstbridge. Other expenditure planned for this year includes $2 million for the Edendale Eltham Dog Park Trail connection. We ask that Council reject this Parks and Open Space Service Standards document and ask officers to represent it with a more comprehensive set of maintenance service standards that reflect Council's obligations and commitments to the environment and biodiversity. 2, commit to a greater urgency to review and finalise roadside and nature strip planting guidelines and review and update Local Law Number 1. And 3, reverse the long-term decline in budgets for maintenance of council reserves and roadsides. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Did we have any questions?
I'd just like to thank you, Don, for making this presentation and bringing to our attention that we're committed to trying to improve the biodiversity of our Green Wedge Shire, and that we are working with our legacy budget controls.
Point of order, is this a question?
I just want to ask Don if he's able to suggest to us how we could, we've already got committed funds for capital upgrades, how we might be able to change our budget to meet your request.
Well, I guess the issue is where do your priorities lie as a council, and given that this budget is 0.1% of council's budget, it's not very much given that it covers the whole of Shire. And when you see what's being put into specific projects, you know, men's sheds, sports grounds and those sorts of things, it's a pittance given the nature of the issues and the problems. And you know, I've been told directly by staff, no, we're not going to deal with that issue because we don't have the budget specifically. So I think, you know, it's council's decision to prioritise it and decide, you know, how much is allocated. And I would think a considerable amount more than what's currently being spent on those sort of things, given that your reserves and some roadside, significant roadside areas are of national significance. So, and the budget's going into them is not very much at all. Thanks.
Just a question for you, Don. Don, do you believe it's reasonable for council to apply for state government grants for infrastructure, or for grant funding, if and when those opportunities arise?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. Have you been able to identify any grants from the state government or federal government for the type of biodiversity uplifts that you're looking for that council has not applied for?
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't looked.
Yep. And therein lies the problem, doesn't there? You know, that infrastructure upgrades are required and we apply for grants. There's very little that council does without the support of the state or federal government in terms of funding. I can't go into a speech, but in terms of what you say about the dog parks, largely funded by state government, the Edendale dog park there or the trail, all state government. So we're cash strapped and we have to apply for grants when and if they arise. If there's, perhaps your advocacy needs to be, as well as our advocacy, to state government to get more grant funding around some of the biodiversity issues.
Excuse me, Councillor Perkins, is there a question?
Yeah, would you agree with that statement?
partially, but I think that the annual budgets of council have declined in this area. There's policies I've looked up and projects that were undertaken in 2010 to 2013, and from that time, a lot of those budgets, a lot of those policies and procedures and guides have completely lapsed. There's been no revamp of those, no continuation of those, and the condition of the environment and biodiversity in the Shire has declined. So I think you need to look at your annual budget as well as grant funding for these sorts of things. And I know at state government level, they're cash strapped too, but they keep handing money to infrastructure and projects that, you know, politicians can put their names on. But stuff like maintenance and maintaining the green wedge effectively is not on the radar. So Parks Victoria has had its budget slashed. Presumably infrastructure keeps getting funded, but environment, grants for environment have been declining. So, you know, I think you've got to look within your own budgets and say, well, you know, is this very small amount adequate to deliver your obligations as a council?
And you would acknowledge that if we have a budget uplift in one area, that money has to come from another area.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
you know, it's a give and take type approach. And I think, would you believe that there is some challenges involved in reducing service levels? Yeah.
Always.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Vincent? Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
As there is only the one submitter to speak tonight, we will put the motion to a vote.
Hang on, I'll put the motion first.
Oh, can I have a mover for the motion?
Thanks. I move that the committee acting under delegation from council, number 1, notes the park and open space service standards, attachment 1, that provide A, definition of programs and maintenance, B, understanding of intervention levels, C, transparency in regard to expectations, 2, authorises the Chief Operating Officer to develop and implement a communication plan to support an education and program campaign on the parks and open space service standards.
Do I have a seconder for the motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Joy.
Okay, so these service standards, very much largely an internal document, but I think it's important that our very competent manager of the operations centre, Heath Gillett, is presenting these internal documents to council. So there's really a lot of transparency, and people can see what council is currently doing in these areas. So again, it's another great document from Heath and his team. The standards are intended to provide the community with a high-level overview of the information, especially in relation to program works and maintenance on defects levels. The outcome of the service standards is to see it used to articulate, communicate and educate all on what, when and how open space infrastructure and assets are managed and maintained. So, if you go through the document, areas including routine audits and ongoing inspections, maintenance of turf, maintenance of garden beds, maintenance and cleaning of all park furniture, structures and landscape features, maintenance of park irrigation, litter control, management of park and street trees, managing vegetation and road reserves, environmental management of weed control, inspection, maintenance and repairs to playgrounds, maintenance sports fields, including turf management. I think, as the submitter has indicated, everyone would like an increased budget in all areas, and this is no different. The number of sports fields that have to be maintained in the Shire is 22. There's 26 hectares of sports fields. There's one turf wicket, there's a synthetic sports field, there's 20 synthetic wicket sites, there's 80 play spaces, there's 400 hectares of parkland, and there's 1,200 kilometres of road reserve. So it's a huge task. We're never going to have enough money. Council has always been and probably always will be very cash-strapped, and we're trying to do the best that we can with the budget available. That's what officers are certainly trying to do. But I think having this document in the public arena just provides that level of transparency, so everyone can see what the service standards are, and if there is an issue where we're falling below that standard, a complaint will be acted upon, because we need to provide the service standards that are written in this document. So I trust the motion will get support. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Joy, would you like to speak?
Yes, thanks. I just wanted to thank Mr Vincent for coming in and speaking with us tonight. And I mean, much of what I would say if it were a conversation is basically the statements that Councillor Perkins made that were posed as questions. And, the argument around the infrastructure versus maintenance debate is one that often comes up. And Councillor Perkins touched on it a little bit with regard to, a lot of the infrastructure work that is being done does come from state government grants. And the other challenge there is that when an opportunity comes up for a grant, often it's not fully funded. We then have to put in a percentage or even match it sometimes, which again, kind of almost directs the funding a little bit. It is very challenging, and I say that, perhaps you're already well aware of that, but just, to verbalise it. And I would also reassure you, hopefully, that I too would commend our operations manager, and I know that there's genuine care for the Shire in the leadership of the operations team, and I think that that's something we can be very proud of. Certainly, my in-laws are on the Central Coast, and whenever they come to visit and we're out walking on the trails or just walking down into town or what have you, they're always remarking about how lucky we are that we actually get things mowed and that we have, so much beautiful environment around us. So, we always want more, and you're absolutely right that we need to maintain it and take care of it. But yeah, just highlighting some of the positives that I see for your thought, perhaps. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Joy. Any other councillors who'd like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Don, for coming in and pointing out our difficulty in meeting our commitment and requirements in our biodiversity of our Greenwich Shire. And I'd like to commend Heath and his group of doing a great job with limited funds. And I would like to say that we note your point, and we need to do better if we can going forward. And I'd encourage our council group to look at this recommendation with favour, and going forward it will be totally considered. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now put this motion to a vote.
Could I
Sorry, Grant.
speak to the motion?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm up in the back corner. All right. Thank you, Chair. Look, I just want to say these are the Parks and Open Space Service Standards. They are not the Biodiversity Service Standards, is what Councillor Perkins said. But it's very important, and I think it's a move forward for the council, that they've been published and they're now transparent, and the council needs to be held to account for the service standards that we've now publicly committed to. And I think that is a good thing, and that is a good thing that now everybody knows what they are. And I do note in dot points 4 and 14, they say that changes to the service levels can be advocated, argued for during the budget submission process. So if people want to see uplift in the areas of public parks and open space, and that is, the turf wickets, what was talked about, street trees, playgrounds, garden beds, park furniture, not biodiversity, but in those areas, in the open space and parks area, that is where to advocate for a change in service standards. And and just as an example, without wanting to bore anyone too much, they're very, very explicit, the service standards that we have to meet. For turf management of sports clubs is always a kind of an area that people are interested in, I think. You know, it calls for weekly inspections, healthy turf all year round with 90% coverage of those ovals. And then in winter use, less than 40 millimetres in height and greater than 15 millimetres into the winter use period. So that is a very specific metric that the council's committing itself to in terms of maintaining its sports ovals. Everyone knows it. The task for us to now is to do it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Apologies, Councillor Brooker. Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Chair. I would like to thank the guys for putting this together, particularly Danielle Henny, who did a lot of this work pulling it together. It's been a thought around the operations centre for, I think, 20 years. I'm getting nods over there. And it's an important document. It does set out what we do, and it's not set in stone. If we want to change it, it has a budget implication that goes with it. So it sets out clearly, under this budget, this is what we can expect to achieve. This is what we're going to hold ourselves to account to. The crew at the front desk who answer all of the outward-facing questions have a manual that they can go back to and sort of say, yes, if that should be mowed every 6 weeks. If it's not, then people have a legitimate sort of reason to say something. But as I said, I think it's a really good document. It puts us on notice that if we want an uplift in any of these areas, or as Don said, we want an uplift in our biodiversity, it needs to have a corresponding budget. We can't just wish that it happens. So that's on us to look at. But as I said, we've got a clear set of standards. It's great work to Heath and the team, and particularly Danielle, who I know put a lot of work into this and initiated it. And I know Claire Quinlan, our director, also had clarified exactly what it was trying to say. And as I say, great work from the whole team, but puts us on notice. If we want an improvement, we need to supply the budget.
Thank you. I think that's everyone. So I'll now put this motion to a vote. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Okay, the next item tonight is the Hurstbridge Dog Park Upgrade Community Consultation. We don't have any registered submitters for this item. So do I have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Joy?
Thank you. I'll just touch the screen and it's all good now. Yes, thank you. I'd like to move that the committee, acting under delegation from council, notes the submissions received in relation to the Hurstbridge Dog Park Upgrade Project Draft Concept Plan, thanks the submitters for providing council with feedback on this important project, considers the comments contained in the submissions and authorises officers to finalise the concept plan and seek endorsement from council at a future meeting.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Perkins? Councillor Joy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, just a few words. As per the example that we were just discussing about state government funding, council managed to secure $300,000 for this project from DECA under their new and upgraded dog parks program, round 2, and in line with the guidelines required for that funding, we needed to chip in $200,000 of our own, so $500,000 project. This one went out for community consultation over a four-week period from mid-August to mid-September, and the opportunity for members of the community to contribute was widely promoted, as it usually is. We received the website, the consultation page on the website received 308 unique visits during the period, and we received a total of 63 survey submissions, with most of the responses overwhelmingly positive, with essentially the proposal and the concept plan. So thank you to everyone who contributed. Looking forward to another great dog park in the Shire. This is another one that I frequent with my dogs, so looking forward to it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Perkins, would you like to speak?
Yeah, in terms of dog parks, I know I've told this story before, but many years ago when I first got on council, a need was identified in Diamond Creek to have a dog park, and that was largely in trying to get the dogs off the ovals in Diamond Creek. The funding that we secured for that was actually from Purina Dog Food. We got $25,000 from Purina, and council put in $25,000 itself. So that was a $50,000 project. Dog parks are a lot more expensive now than what they were back then, and we're going back about 12 or 13 years. Shortly after the Diamond Creek Dog Park was built, the Hurstbridge Dog Park was built, and since then, in more recent years, we've got the Eltham North Dog Park and the Eltham Lower Dog Park. So almost 100% state government funded. So council hasn't actually put a lot of money into dog parks. But certainly, in terms of recent upgrades and recent grant funding to the Diamond Creek Dog Park and the new dog parks the two new dog parks in Eltham, the people of Hurstbridge wanted an upgrade there as well, right? So that's on that basis the grant application was put in, and the guidelines said that it was 2-for-1 funding, that if we wanted $300,000, we had to, I think we had to provide 2/3 of the funding. If we wanted $300,000, which is what we wanted, we had to come up with $200,000. So that's how we've ended up with a budget of $300,000. So it's, or $500,000 for a total project, which is a very healthy amount of money for a dog park anywhere. I think Hurstbridge have done really, really well out of this process. The consultation has been very supportive. The ward council has been very good in terms of making sure that a concept plan went out that she knew that she'd get community support for, because I'm pretty sure it was 90% right. I made a couple of suggestions, and one has fallen flat, and that would be on seeing the new park in Eltham, where they put some Elson Ox Park, I think it is, where they put some new tables and chairs. There was some solar lighting, and also there was some USB chargers in those new lights. So I sort of thought, oh, what a great thing. Into the future, we should have USB chargers in, where we put in this park furniture sort of thing. So I suggested that go into the plan. Resoundingly, doesn't matter so much because I'm not from Hurstbridge, but resoundingly, that suggestion has been rejected. Question 14, if public USB chargers were provided under the shelters, would you use them? 44 responses said no, only 5 said yes, 9 unsure. So I think the USB chargers are off the table for that particular dog park. Hopefully they still go into Diamond Creek, because I'm sure the Diamond Creek people will use them, but certainly there's no interest in USB chargers in Hurstbridge. The rest of the responses there, positive response, overwhelmingly very positive response, and it looks to be a good plan, and I don't think the final plan will be too different from this one, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. Would any other councillors like to speak? No? I'll put this motion to a vote. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Moving on to supplementary and urgent business. We have an item of urgent business. Do I have a mover to admit the report as urgent business? Councillor Perkins?
Thanks. I move that the committee acting on a delegation from council in accordance with clause 57 of the governance rule meeting procedure admit the item of urgent business relating to Victorian carded play trial for electronic gaming machines. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cope? Any councillors would like to speak? No? I'll move the motion. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Great, so we'll move on to the Victorian carded play trial for electronic gaming machines, actual item. Do I have a mover for the recommendation?
I'd like to move the motion, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Brooker. Could you read the motion?
Motion is that the committee, acting under delegation from council, approves the mayor to co-sign the Alliance of Gambling Reform and Monash joint letter to the Minister for Casino, Gaming and Liquor Regulation and the Minister for Local Government advocating for strong consumer protections and transparency.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Perkins? Councillor Brooker, would you like to speak to the motion?
So I would, thank you, Chair. Look, the phrase mandatory pre-commitment and loss limits, you're going to hear a lot about, because that is really the nux of what the Alliance for Gambling Reform is trying to do. Supporting this initiative is consistent with our gambling harm minimisation policy. It's consistent with our health and wellbeing plan, 25 to 29, that we just passed a month back. And that is about reducing harm from gambling and from electronic gaming machines. I would say those that follow this space have to conclude we have seen many, many times previously attempts to reform the gaming industry. We hear grand announcements of grand intentions in the policy launch, and then when the actual go beyond the photo opportunity and beyond the bright lights that accompany the photo opportunity for the legislation and for the specific aims, objectives and intentions of the policy, you find a gap of the size of the Grand Canyon between the announcement and the legislation. And, you know, the example of 2011, the Gillard government introduced gaming reform. Clubs New South Wales came out all guns blazing. That fell apart. Andrew Wilkie left the coalition as a result of that, or the minority government over that issue. Recently, we had the former member for Dunkley, Peter Murphy, who achieved bipartisan support for a 3-year phased-in advertising ban. That's not banning gambling. That's just banning advertising. And that got bipartisan support. But when, you know, the thing had to be legislated, and there were 3 years to allow major sports to find alternative advertisers and sponsors, it fell somewhat short. We got a partial ban for advertising, and there was and primetime sport, but it was allowed in other lots of family programming. So the latest initiative is about pre-commitment and loss limits mandatory, so for people to set their loss limits themselves. If you are going to move the dial on this issue, it seems personalising it to an individual and saying what your loss limits will be for carded play is the way that you could do so. And in the reforms that were announced in July 2023, mandatory pre-commitment was the central focus of the trial that this legislation is going to be governing. The legislation being the Gambling Legislation Amendment, Pre-Commitment and Carded Play Bill 2024. So, when, though, something has happened and that mandatory pre-commitment is now not got a deadline, it hasn't got a timeline to be implemented by the end of 2027. The deadline's disappeared. So one really has to wonder if there is the kind of political will to force through mandatory pre-commitment if there is no timeline, there is no deadline. There is now talk of other sorts of technology like facial recognition technology and this sort of thing. That is not mandatory pre-commitment. Let's be very clear, that is not what the big announcements of July 2023 were all about. So I think what we need to do is add our support to the City of Monash and the Gambling Reform Alliance to remind the Minister that it is mandatory pre-commitment That is the thing that we're advocating for, and that is what we want the policy to the legislation to represent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brooker. Councillor Perkins, would you like to
I
speak?
think congratulations, Councillor Brooker. I think he's covered that all very well. I can't beat him on this one, so I'll let that go through. Thank you.
Would any other councillors like to speak? No. I'll now put this motion to a vote. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Great, so there's no confidential reports, and so that we can now close the meeting. Thank you, everyone. That concludes our meeting for tonight. I declare the meeting closed at 7:37. Thanks, Councillor Brooker.